Let's continue with A Journey to the West. There might be a bit more to cover today, but I really want to conclude our time in Washington, D.C. We mentioned this later during our time in Boston as well. When His Holiness was teaching the great perfection Manjushri, there was a Chinese girl. At the start, she could afford the fees for 2 classes. At that time, I believe one class cost $35. By the time the last 2 classes came around, she had run out of money. I ended up paying for her, so I just gave her the money. She was extremely grateful to me. She really didn't want to miss those final 2 lessons. As an international student, she simply had no other way. Later I wrote about this, but when I was writing I didn't use the feminine pronoun for her in Chinese. I'm just mentioning this to you all today. Indeed, sometimes the fee for a single class was around $35 or $20. The minimum was probably $15. I don't remember all the details now. But basically, you had to pay in US dollars for every teaching. If I asked you to pay in US dollars for these classes now, it might be difficult. Even if it weren't US dollars, paying in RMB might still be a bit of a struggle. As time went on, there were fewer and fewer Dharma friends attending the teachings. It's possible that only 1 or 2 wealthy people remained at the end. Today's section is titled A Farewell Talk. On July 31st, 1993, after His Holiness Jigme Phuntsok completed all the scheduled Dharma teachings as a celebration, Buddhists of different colors and nationalities set up tents on the grass. In the form of a buffet, they held a very joyful feast. Usually, whenever we transmit the Dharma, we hold a Ganachakra, feast offering afterward. This was a grand feast of that kind. The day was sunny, and the trees were luxuriantly green. Hearing the birds' melodious songs and smelling the refreshing scent of flowers in the air, everyone was relaxed and enjoyed the delicious food. The mood was exceptionally pleasant. It is likely the same abroad as well. People generally enjoy activities like feast offerings and group dinners. However, those without much money might find it stressful, so to the teachers in various groups, please do not organize too many group dinners. Otherwise, some can afford it while others cannot. When there are events for Khenpos or Khenmos, buying out all the cakes is fine as a gesture once in a while. Expressing appreciation occasionally is good, but if it happens too often, those with limited means will feel distressed. Yet gathering together sometimes is beneficial. We shouldn't act like wooden statues. If we feel no joy upon completing the Dharma teachings, asking, "What happened today?" and just saying, "Nothing, I am practicing non-attachment. Everything is but a creation of the mind." That approach is also not quite right. After all, we are still human beings, sentient beings made of flesh and blood. So His Holiness was also spending time with them back then. We can see that from the photographs, right? You can see all kinds of... That was a lovely place. Right outside was... Actually, regarding the Palyul Namdroling Monastery, I mentioned it briefly in the Notes on a Journey to India. There, after His Holiness finished his teachings, all the eminent masters and great beings gathered together. For the entire Sangha outside, although the food wasn't fancy, it was quite all right. Everyone was very happy out there together. However, our environment and conditions here are limited. It's not always necessary to make a grand display of doing things outdoors, but sometimes just buying some sweets for everyone to enjoy is quite necessary. When a great Dharma teaching is completed, it wouldn't be right to do this every single day. There must be a sense of propriety and a limit to everything. Eating and drinking excessively every day is not right, but being overly conservative where nothing happens and people act like stone statues, that's also not right. There should be a proper balance. The wise can make these distinctions, whereas the foolish may not necessarily know. Before the farewell, His Holiness spoke these words to everyone. "I have a few wishes for you that I want to share with you today. Generally speaking, someone like me who has no merit but a lot of faults is not qualified to give you any useful advice." His Holiness was being very humble here, but this time we have been tightly bound by the samaya between teacher and disciple, causing us not to separate not only in this life, but in all future lives, so I am encouraged to share some of my thoughts with you. His Holiness didn't really need to gather courage before them, but great beings sometimes manifest humility. In truth, when someone with real merit acts humble, everyone understands that his words should not be taken as the literal ultimate truth. However, if someone without merit claims to possess such and such qualities, they might not be trusted. That's just how it is. First, His Holiness categorized his wishes. The first was his wish for the head of the center. First, I have 2 wishes for your resident Lama, Akon Lhamo. All her qualities can be summarized into 2 aspects. First, the aspect of her actualization and realization of the Dharma, and second, her activity of propagating the Dharma and benefiting beings. This is very important for those of us who are Dharma teachers. To sustain a center, one must first possess more than just a silver tongue. You must be a true practitioner with the merit of actualization and realization, as well as a genuine desire to benefit others rather than being self-serving. I sincerely hope she can keep these 2 types of qualities without declining or losing them, but rather increasing them more than ever through her best efforts. Perhaps due to the blessing of His Holiness's aspirations, she has remained steadfast for over 30 years. I heard her center still follows the Paleo lineage. Some people follow one teacher today and another tomorrow. Unstable people will tell a teacher today, I'll start a center for you and serve you faithfully, only to switch to someone else shortly after. They are constantly switching and changing. In truth, this kind of behavior doesn't lead to a very bright future, because everyone eventually sees you are a fickle person. I think her ability to sustain such a center for over 30 years is truly remarkable. Whether it was the blessings of His Holiness or her own merit from practice, it was all driven by causes and conditions. Second, the wishes for the monastics. Second, I have 3 wishes for you monastics. What are they? To be harmonious in solidarity, to observe pure precepts, and to diligently study and practice the Dharma. Whether it is our academy's rules or the academy's, mainly these principles should be applied to other centers as well. If you ever establish a center in the future, you should follow these same points. This is extremely important. When I first arrived, I didn't realize how profound its meaning truly was. Now it's clear that for any monastic Sangha, these 3 points are crucial. If these are present, no major problems will arise. First, let's talk about solidarity and harmony. Regarding solidarity and harmony, originally, this should not only be among Buddhists, but also with other religions like Christianity and Hinduism. We must maintain a harmonious relationship with them. Incessant rivalries and strife between each other can only cause harm instead of happiness and ease. Whether it is between individuals or centers, do not constantly bicker, especially all that online content, the various insults and slanders. Do not listen to it or watch it. It is completely meaningless. If we engage with it and try to an eye for an eye, there is no spiritual nourishment in that. This includes when others level unfounded or baseless slander against you. Just do not take any of it to heart. It is much better to simply ignore it. The same applies to our personal offline interactions between people. So my first point is that you should strive to build a cohesive and friendly relationship with all different religions and Buddhist schools, particularly the 4 major schools that have been thriving in the land of Tibet. This is the most fundamental thing for all of us that cannot be neglected. Regarding these various schools, compared to the situation a couple of decades ago, nowadays, Buddhism is flourishing in many countries around the world. This is quite wonderful, but be aware that there is a big Mara-like obstacle that could destroy Buddhism. That is disunity. Honestly speaking, if there are 2 gurus in one place, their relationship can hardly be harmonious at all times. This is likely a common issue everywhere. If 2 people have equal status, they may envy each other, pointing out each other's faults and so on. And if there are 2 Dharma centers or 2 groups of Sangha in one place, again they can barely get along well with each other. But indeed, solidarity and harmony are of the utmost importance. As the Buddha once said, harmony in the Sangha brings happiness, and the ascetic practices of a harmonious Sangha bring even more happiness. First, harmony is the primary cause of happiness. Then, within that harmony, practicing asceticism and spiritual cultivation, that brings even greater happiness. Actually, we humans are just like this. If 2 or 3 people go out together, coming back in harmony is the greatest joy. If you practice and go on pilgrimages in harmony, then it is even more joyful. The same applies to Dharma centers and to every department within them. Great happiness comes from harmony in the Sangha, and if such a harmonious Sangha collectively practices virtue and refrains from non-virtue, even more happiness will be acquired. So to have solidarity and be harmonious is indispensable. The explanation His Holiness gave below for the scriptural citation was exactly this. So harmony is a principle everyone should talk about. Whether for a center or an individual, peace is vital. As they say, when a family is in harmony, all things prosper. If a family lives in harmony, the atmosphere of the whole world feels better. If a Dharma center is in harmony, it is the same. Harmony is of the utmost importance. Secondly, pure precepts are the very foundation of your Dharma practice. Since you have been ordained and have received the monastic vows, if you can perfectly uphold the pure precepts, it is certain that you will enjoy happiness and be free from suffering in both the present and future lifetimes. However, if you break your vows, you will have no other recourse but to fall into the lower realms. These are the hells, hungry ghosts, and animal realms. Therefore you must observe your precepts carefully, because they can bring you either great benefit or huge harm. You must safeguard them with great care. Receiving precepts is very important, but if one receives them and then breaks them, it brings immense harm, suffering, and rebirth in the lower realms. So for a Dharma center, it is crucial for the Sangha to uphold pure precepts. Third is to diligently study and practice the Dharma. What is the practice of the Dharma? It is to devotedly and firmly internalize and actualize the Dharma. Among listening, contemplating, and practicing, His Holiness mentioned practice first. What is the study of the Dharma? It is to wholeheartedly listen to and teach the Dharma. It is great if you have the ability to expound the Dharma to others, but if it is beyond your ability for the time being, you should exert yourself in listening to and contemplating the Dharma. Many of us might be like this. Some have both abilities, while those who don't should listen as much as possible. Lately, we have had many classes this summer: Dharma teachers' classes, Khenpo's classes, and my classes. There is a saying in Tibet, listening so much that your ears change shape. We might spend the whole day listening, and when we finally sleep, there is a buzzing sound in our ears. Our ears have literally changed shape. Right now, we certainly don't lack for things to listen to. In fact, it's too much, too little in winter, too much in summer. I suppose that's fine. Regardless, if you weren't listening like this, time would pass by anyway. The best situation is to have favorable conditions for both listening to and teaching the Dharma. If you cannot do both of them, you must practice at least one of them, either listening to the Dharma or teaching it. This is very important. It constitutes listening, contemplation, and practice. These were the wishes for the Dharma center that have just been discussed. His Holiness was very systematic. Even when transcribed later, there was no repetition, as if he were truly composing a formal treatise. Many of our Dharma friends, I heard that some people outside who had never heard His Holiness's teachings before, after seeing them now, feel that His Holiness was truly extraordinary, because even in his simple everyday language there was a natural flow. Back then we didn't have cameras everywhere like we do now. Today I have to be a bit more careful, but back then there was nothing. His Holiness would just speak very casually. Yet even after speaking casually, when we organized the transcripts later, wow, the logic was incredibly sound. Everything from beginning to end was perfectly organized. Third, the wishes for the lay practitioners. I have 2 wishes for you, lay practitioners. Please refrain from killing and stealing and engage in virtuous practice as best you can, such as doing prostrations, circumambulations, chanting sutras or mantras. This is my first wish. As lay practitioners, when you go to propagate the Dharma later, you can go to a center and address the resident Lama, sharing a wish for them. Then share 3 wishes for the monastery and finish by speaking to the lay practitioners around you. You won't even need to prepare a speech. Just memorize this and you're set. People will think you are incredibly wise, as everything is covered. Please pray to the 3 jewels with devotion, and more importantly, do not lose faith in the jewel of the Sangha. Pray to them and serve them as much as you can. If you have additional material wealth, make offerings to them without stinginess. By doing so, both your present and future lives will be greatly benefited. The situation in America is different from ours. Here in Tibetan areas, once you become a monastic, you don't worry about basic needs. People will surely make offerings. In the West, however, unless a great Rinpoche gives you an empowerment and perhaps an offering envelope, it is usually very difficult to receive offerings. So seeing this, His Holiness hoped they would make offerings to the monastics at the center. It is similar in Japan. Sometimes Dharma centers in Japan cannot even afford their water and electricity bills. It's the same in Europe and America, like in Switzerland. Many centers in Switzerland because they can't afford the electricity bills now. Furthermore, they exist as corporate entities. As an enterprise, it generates various taxes every year. That makes the rent very expensive. So in our centers, everyone contributes a little bit for membership fees, but eventually some people, due to poor business or other reasons, slowly drift away. Especially if there are no new Rinpoches, if there is a somewhat famous Rinpoche, they are seen as precious ones, and precious ones have wealth, so things are slightly better. Thus many centers nowadays are in great need of Rinpoches. With a Rinpoche there, everything nearby seems to carry their presence, right? People like that. Then for all, just mention the wishes for lay followers. There are a few more common wishes for everyone. I have one common wish for all of you, which is to spare no effort to protect and propagate Buddhism as a whole, and in particular to maintain your monastery well and keep it from any harm or misconduct that may cause the monastery to be faulted by others. So His Holiness felt that this center was very important. Do not allow its reputation to be damaged in any way. If bad things happen to the center, not only would each of you not be able to hold your head up in front of others, all of Buddhism would be disgraced. Therefore, you need to be vigilant and pay full attention in this regard. There are a few points for your center that require special attention. First, between male and female monastics, it is imperative to strictly observe the precepts. Otherwise, if mistakes occur, nothing could be worse than that. Regarding the methods and practicalities, the head of the center should establish strict discipline. If conditions allow, the living quarters for monks and nuns should be separated. There should be a partition between them. The meaning of a partition is that in these centers, the living arrangements are basically like staying in a hotel. The rooms are individual and separate. But it likely meant that their floors or sections weren't clearly divided, because Westerners are quite free-spirited. You can see for yourselves. It's evident in those photographs. Usually, when we take group photos of monks and nuns, the monks are grouped here on one side and the nuns on the other side, but they would just stand together quite casually. It was the same with their housing, and men and women would eat together too. So His Holiness was a bit uncomfortable with that at the time, but since he was about to leave anyway, it was fine to speak a bit more directly before departing. So His Holiness emphasized that one must prevent such issues from arising right from the start. This point is extremely important. If you don't pay enough attention to this, and monastics and lay people of both genders are all mixed together, it will be very difficult to uphold the precepts. Take my example. In my Buddhist academy, there are over 1,000 nuns and over 1,000 monks. When they are listening to the Dharma, they sit in different areas with a significant distance between them. I was wondering if our main assembly hall existed back then. If not, they might have been in the gondola hall uphill. At that time, a red line was drawn between the women and men. I thought His Holiness even knew the term red line. Back then, in the middle of our hall, Manager Rozang drew a literal red line, women on this side, men on that side. It seems it was like that back then. But let's see about the main assembly hall. If there is one, it should be the same. Sitting together is not allowed. When walking, they cannot enter or exit through the same door. Nuns use one entrance and monks use another. Furthermore, their living areas are also separated by a great distance. They shouldn't contact or meet each other casually. If this isn't done and people live together for a long time, one day it will become difficult to keep the vows. Therefore, I noticed in that photo, the one where they are all taking a group picture together, there is a young girl next to Akon Lamo. That's likely the same woman who teaches Dharma now. I'm not sure, but it should be. At that time she was quite naughty, running around everywhere. That's how it often was when they were taking photos. There are two versions of this photo, one with lay followers and one without. So you must protect your vows from the very beginning. Otherwise, the negative karma of breaking vows is immense. One would fall into the lower realms for hundreds of thousands of lifetimes. Thus, first, you must strictly guard your own precepts. Second, be as vigilant as possible not to destroy others' precepts. The first is to uphold your own vows. The second is not to damage the vows of others. If you cause someone else to break their vows, that is even more terrifying than breaking your own. Why? The sin of destroying another's precepts is more serious than destroying tens of millions of stupas. Even for other negative karmas like killing or stealing, while one is destined for the lower realms, purification is possible. But if you cause another monastic to break their vows, that is an action near to the immediate. One will fall into the uninterrupted hell immediately after death, with no chance of liberation, so you must be exceptionally careful, no matter who you are. Even if you cannot accomplish vast, virtuous deeds, there is no fault in that. But you must find every way and exhaust every effort not to create obstacles for other practitioners guarding their precepts. If you cause a vow-holder to break their precepts, not only will you not meet the three jewels for hundreds of thousands of lives, you will even be reborn in the dark borderlands where even the name of the three jewels is unheard. His Holiness specifically highlighted here the fault of breaking one's own vows, as well as the harm of causing others to break theirs. Some might think that even if they break their vows, they can still practice some secret mantra, Vajrayana, and there won't be much harm. If you think that way, the Buddha said that for a vow breaker practicing Tantra there is no accomplishment. For such a person, the Buddha himself stated that they cannot achieve success in these secret practices. Some say breaking the pratimoksha vows might not be a big deal for higher practices, but the Buddha has already stated clearly, as long as one is a vow breaker, success in Vajrayana will not be possible. As long as you have broken your vows, no matter how much you study, seek knowledge, or engage in spiritual practice, your only destination will be the lower realms. You will not obtain any benefit from your practice. Therefore, you must be extremely cautious. This is what His Holiness told them. Even if you truly cannot uphold the vows yourself, do not hinder others from keeping theirs. Instead, you should provide them with favorable conditions. In this way, you can also share in the merit of their pure discipline. If lay people prevent others from going into ordained life, or if someone has already ordained but their family forces them to return home, the karmic fault is very great. In summary, I have 2 wishes for the main leaders of your center, 3 wishes for the monks and nuns, and 2 wishes for the lay practitioners. His Holiness remembered all of these very clearly. He had no script. He was just speaking extemporaneously. You should keep these in your heart and not neglect them. Do not cast them aside once I have left. Do not let them slip out of your inner pocket. Everyone, hide them away carefully. Do not lose them. Inner pocket. How should we put it? We have many small pouches with the syllable "ah" on them. It likely means keeping them tucked inside there, right? The wishes His Holiness mentioned, 2 for the abbot, 3 for the Sangha, and 2 for the others. That makes 7 in total, right? Pack these 7 wishes into your gao, amulet box, or your inner pocket. Then they all burst into laughter. Finally, I will offer 3 aspirations. It looks like we'll finish the talk today. First, I wish for the abbot, Akon Lamu, to live long and for her Dharma activities to flourish. Second, may all monks and nuns keep pure precepts and attain perfect wisdom. Third, may all virtuous male and female householders have immovable faith in the 3 jewels and engage in the 10 virtues continuously. These are the wishes he made for them. It seems that at every Dharma center before His Holiness left, he would always offer these blessings. Praying for them, this is truthful speech. Indeed, there is a great need for such aspirations in many places. As followers of His Holiness by extension, whether you are monastics, Khenpos, Khenmos, or lay practitioners, everyone receives this blessing from His Holiness. May all Buddhas and Bodhisattvas bless me to fulfill these aspirations. His Holiness was praying for the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas' blessing to bring these wishes to fruition. Also, please all of you grant me great power so that I can make all my wishes come true. With this, the Dharma tour in Washington, D.C. has been completed. All right, we have left Washington. The next stop is New York. You see, New York is a very nice city, so we will head to New York the day after tomorrow. Everyone get ready. Don't lose your plane tickets. Though nowadays you can just use your phone. In the past you had to carry them in your hand. Now you just swipe your phone and it's no problem. We are taking a plane from Washington to New York.
Bandara Banma Sodargye